Hello students, welcome back to another story of English. Chapter 10 is Strength Wrestling Match. Through a brave and open mind, one can win over anything, even ghost. Still one should avoid boosting. This is what this story reveals. It revolves around a man who was caught up in trouble and had to face a ghost because of his boosting. Though in the end he won over the game. This story consists of two parts. Today we study about first part. Bijay Singh was a famous wrestler. He was tall like a giant. He had big shoulders and muscular arms. He was a born wrestler. But Bijay Singh had one weakness. It often pushed him into trouble. He was given to self-praise and tall talks. He once said that he was not afraid of ghosts. He wished to face a ghost and teach him a lesson. A man guided him to the haunted desert. That place was 10 miles on the road to Jaisalmer. The ghost had often looted and killed travelers. Bijay Singh accepted the challenge. He got ready to set out west. An old woman came forward and put a packet into his hands. It contains an egg and a piece of salt. The old woman was known to be crazy. As Bijay Singh entered the desert, he heard the voice of a ghost. He called himself Bijay's friend Natwar. Bijay Singh tried to be brave. He called the ghost to come out of the darkness. Looking into Natwar's face, Bijay Singh called him a weak liar. He showed no sign of fear. The ghost felt insulted. विजय सिंह एक प्रसिद्ध पहलवान था। वो किसी दानव की भांति लंबा था। उसके कंधे विशाल थे और उनके बाजू भी बहुत मसज थे। वो जन्मजात पहलवान था, पर विजय सिंह की एक कमजोरी थी। वो अवगुण उसे अक्सर संकट में डाल देता था। वो आत्म प्रशंसा करता था, डींग मारा करता था। एक बार वो बोला, मैं भूतों से नहीं डरता, काश मेरा मुकाबला किसी भूत से हो जाए और मैं उसे सबक सिखाऊं। एक व्यक्ति ने उसे भूतवा मरुस्थल में जाने की सलाह दी। वो स्थान जैसलमेर सड़क से 10 मील दूर था। भूत अक्सर यात्रियों को लूट लेता तथा मार देते थे। विजय सिंह ने चुनौती स्वीकार कर ली। वो पश्चिम की ओर जाने के लिए तैयार हो गया। एक वृद्धा ने आगे बढ़कर उसके हाथ में एक पोटली थमा दी। उसके अंदर एक अंडा तथा एक नमक का टुकड़ा था। वो औरत पागल मानी जाती थी। जैसे ही विजय सिंह ने मरुस्थल में प्रवेश किया, उसे किसी प्रेत आत्मा की आवाज सुनाई दी। उसने अपनी पहचान बताई, तुम्हारा मित्र नटवर। विजय सिंह ने बहादुरी दिखाई। उसने भूत को कहा कि अंधेरे से बाहर आओ। नटवर का चेहरा देखकर विजय सिंह ने कहा, तुम तो एक कमजोर झूठ बोलने वाले हो। उसके चेहरे पर भय का कोई चिन्ह नहीं था। भूत ने अपमानित महसूस किया। Let's read the chapter. Once there was a wrestler named Vijay Singh. He was a tall man with big shoulders and strong muscular arms. In comparison to others, he looked like a giant. People were of the opinion that he was a born wrestler and was unbeatable. This Pelvan had one flaw that landed him into troubles. It was his habit of speaking too proudly of his possessions. One day, while sitting in the market with many young men and after having milk, he announced that he was not afraid of ghosts. Rather, he wanted to meet a ghost and teach him a lesson. People started whispering. Some were praising and some were showing suspicion and fears. One young man told him that at night, if he could walk alone through the haunted desert, there he would surely meet ghosts. Ghosts roamed there freely. Strange sounds were often heard there. Travelers were looted and killed. Bijay Singh was little scared and also repentant for speaking that. Yet he said it very casually that he knew about the place, and in his opinion it was nothing but a fairy tale. One of his admirers exclaimed that was true and told him the location of the place. It was 10 miles to the west on the road to Jaisalmer. The easily recognizable sign was an ugly looking black rock like the head of a camel. Beyond that, there was nothing except the jungle and ghosts. Bijay Singh set out for his journey to the haunted place. and the whole village came to bid him farewell. An old lady threw a packet in his hands and he started walking towards the desert. As he kept walking, the night grew dark, the moon became bright, and the stars were clearly visible in the Rajasthan sky. After a few miles, Vijay Singh recalled the packet given by that old lady. He opened it and found a lump of salt and an egg. This old woman was famous for her strange behaviors. As soon as Vijay Singh stepped into the haunted desert, a voice called him and asked him follow it. This voice told him that he was his friend, not war. Vijay Singh came to know that it was a ghost, showing that he was not scared, rather brave. Vijay Singh called back and asked the ghost his whereabouts as he was not able to see him due to the darkness. Seeing the ghost just like a good wrestler, Vijay wanted to guess his enemy's power. Shortly, the ghost made himself visible, and Vijay Singh looked at his face carefully and said that the ghost was a liar. He had wanted to meet him for quite a long time and would not have to work anymore. Hearing this kind of insulting words, the ghost was surprised. Generally, people were scared of him and seeing him. They started running and faint. But this case was completely opposite. He wanted to meet the ghost. In surprise, the ghost asked him if that was true. Vijay Singh called the ghost stupid and unable to read a man's thoughts. He said that he was a useless ghost. Vijay further told him that he was tired of fighting with man. That is why now he wanted to fight with a ghost. The ghost did not have any reply and tried to scare Vijay. He said that Vijay did not appear to be strong enough. Vijay Singh told the ghost not to go by his appearance and abused the ghost. Vijay even offered to the ghost that if he was interested, Vijay could prove his strength. About second part of the story. Vijay Singh proceeded to test the ghost's strength. He offered him a piece of stone and asked him to squeeze the liquid out of it. The ghost tried hard but failed. Vijay Singh secretly crushed the egg and yellow part flowed out. He gave the ghost another piece of rock for crush. The ghost failed the test again. Vijay Singh crushed the lump of salt. The powder tasted salty. The ghost then planned to kill Vijay Singh secretly. He took Vijay Singh to his cave and offered him a luxurious bed to sleep on, complete with pillows. Vijay Singh saw through the ghost's trick. He put a round pillow on the bed and he sat himself in a corner. The ghost at break of the day struck the pillow 7 times. He was happy now. He thought he had killed his enemy. Vijay Singh then returned to his bed. He began to groan as if in disgust. The ghost was shocked to hear the noise. Vijay Singh told the ghost that his cave was filled with insects. He was sleeping soundly when that insect came to trouble him. The ghost got panicked and fled. Vijay Singh returned to his village with all the treasures left behind by the ghost. He married the old woman's granddaughter. He gave up boasting. No traveler was there after looted or killed in the haunted desert. विजय सिंह ने भूत की ताकत की परीक्षा ली. उसने भूत को पत्थर का एक ठेला दिया और कहा इसे दबाकर इसके अंदर का तरल पदार्थ बाहर निकाल कर दिखाओ. भूत ने पूरा प्रयत्न किया परंतु असफल रहा. विजय सिंह ने चुपके से अंडे को मसलकर उसमें से पीली चदरी बाहर निकाल दी. फिर उसने भूत को दूसरा पत्थर दिया और उसे चूरा करने को बोला. भूत पुनः असफल रहा. विजय सिंह ने नमक का ठेले को मसल दिया और चूरा चखने में नमकीन था. फिर भूत ने विजय सिंह को छल कपट से हत्या करने की सोची. वो विजय सिंह को अपने गुफा में ले गया तथा उसे बिस्तर पर लेटा दिया. विजय सिंह ने भूत की नीयत भांप ली. उसने पलंग पर पिलो रखकर चादर डाल दी और वो स्वयं एक कोने में जाके दुबक कर बैठ गया. भोर में भूत ने उसके ऊपर 7 बार प्रहार किया. अब वो प्रसन्न था। उसने सोच लिया कि उसने शत्रु को मार डाला था। फिर विजय सिंह अपने बिस्तर पर लौट आया। वो जोर जोर से आवाज करने लगा। प्रेत को हैरानी हुई आवाज सुनकर। विजय सिंह ने प्रेत को बताया कि उसका गुफा कीड़ों से भरा हुआ है। वो अच्छी नींद सो रहा था, तभी एक कीड़ा आकर उसे तंग करना शुरू कर दिया। प्रेत घबरा गया और वहां से भाग खड़ा हुआ। विजय सिंह भूत द्वारा छोड़ा हुआ सारा खजाना लेकर गांव लौट आया। उसने वृद्धा की पोती से विवाह कर लिया। उसने डींग मारना बंद कर दिया। उसके पश्चात फिर किसी यात्री को उस भूतवा मरुस्थल में लूटा या मारा नहीं गया। Let's start the story. Vijay Singh handed the ghost rock and told him it was filled with liquid. He told him to squeeze it hard. The ghost tried hard with both hands and his attention got diverted from Vijay. Vijay took the egg from his pocket into his hands. He then snatched the rock from the ghost, placed it between his hands and squeezed. The yellow yolk came out, and cracking of the eggshells gave a feeling that the stone was being crushed. Vijay Singh now gave the ghost another stone and said he should crumble it and see that it contains salt. The ghost again tried. Meanwhile, Vijay had taken the lump of salt into his hand. When the ghost handed the stone to Vijay, he saw that he was casually crumbling it. Actually, Vijay let the stone drop into the sand and crumbed the lump of salt. He now asked the ghost to taste it. Vijay Singh said the ghost was not a worthy opponent and a weakling. Impressed by Vijay Singh's demonstration of strength, the ghost also felt he should not fight with Vijay. The ghost now decided to trick Vijay Singh. He accepted defeat. He told Vijay Singh to rest in his house for the night and leave the next morning. Vijay Singh agreed on the conditions that the ghost would go with him as a prisoner so he could display him as a trophy to the villagers. While the ghost led Vijay Singh to his house, he was silently plotting to kill him. The ghost fed Vijay dry fruits and a lot of milk. He then led him to a luxurious bed to sleep on. Vijay was cautious and knew the ghost was doing his best to put Vijay to sleep. Vijay stayed awake until he heard the snoring of the ghost. Then he arranged the bolster on the center of the bed and covered it to look like a sleeping man. Vijay himself crouched into a dark corner and waited watchfully. Just before dawn, the ghost came with a stout club and hit what he thought was Vijay Singh's head. Not hearing even a groan, he thought he had killed Vijay Singh instantly. To be sure, he hit with his club 6 more times and went back to his couch to sleep. Vijay now quickly went back into the bed. He groaned and sat up in disgust. He complained to the ghost that there were insects in the cave. He told the ghost he was sleeping soundly when 7 flapping of the wings of an insect disturbed him. The ghost panicked and fled, leaving behind his ill-gotten wealth. Vijay Singh returned much of the wealth to the rightful owners. He thanked the old woman and married her granddaughter. No traveler was troubled in the haunted desert again. Students, the moral of the story is being boastful and arrogant can land one in trouble. The story depicts Vijay Singh as a physically strong man. He needed intelligence and not physical strength to outwit the ghost.